One, two, three. Один, два. Hello, my dear. Один, two, three. One, two, three. One, two, three. One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three. One, two, three. One. What channel of English? Who can say what channel of English? Hello. One, two, three. One, two, three.
Sì, sì. E sanno che si devono sedere qua. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. And you waited because there was a great interest in the session, so I take it it's also a good thing. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us in this conference. Of course, thank you to the Italian authorities for putting together this edition of this recovery conference. And before we start, just very briefly, there will be translation for you both in Ukrainian and English. And now I will invite on stage our 5 keynote speakers for this session. The first one, of course, is Yulia Svirenko. She is Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister and also Economy Minister. We're also very happy. I think today we've talked about the idea of the European Union and how it's helped Ukraine, but there's also a very important European country that has really helped Ukraine from day one, and it's recognized as such, and that is, of course, the United Kingdom. So we're very happy that today we're joined by the UK's Deputy Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Angela Rayner. She's also joining us on stage. Thank you very much. Then the Italian hosts, it's always great to see you again here in Rome. And of course, we're joined by Dottore Riccardo Barbieri, who is the head of the Italian Treasury. Round of applause. Thank you very much. We were supposed to be joined briefly, and he will be here by Valdis Dombrovskis representing the European Commission. He is with a slight delay, but will join us later. In the meantime, however, we also want to invite Poland's Finance Minister, Andrzej Domanski, to join us on stage for a keynote. And as I said, just in a moment, Mr. Dombrovskis will join us. And now it is my pleasure to leave you with Ministers Virodenko. She is Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister, as I said, and also the Economy Minister. A very important job in this difficult time. So the stage is yours.
I was expected to participate in panel, but hello. I was expected to participate in panel, but it's okay. I have a speech note. It's okay. So first of all, it's a great that there is so big interest to Ukraine and to private sector development. And first of all, I would like to say thank you for everyone who stands with Ukraine and supporting us with weapons, with private investment, with a budget support. We deeply value your contribution. The stronger Ukraine becomes, the more resilient our economy and the faster our recovery. And today at the Recovery Conference in Rome, we're discussing how to rebuild Ukraine most effectively. I would say the only one answer is through investment. And from our perspective now, it's a right time and best time to invest in Ukraine. We really need investment in real sector. Our economy required restoration of the manufacturing assets, of logistics hub, of power plants and critical infrastructure. We are especially focused on priority sectors, machinery and equipment, agri-processing, renewable energy, healthcare, critical minerals, and we are open for business, for companies ready to invest in real projects and grow alongside Ukraine's recovery. And Ukraine needs this investment. Our private sector has already led the examples. Since the start of large-scale invasion, Ukrainians' private sector have already opened around 111 different factories. They are already constructed or under construction, and international companies are also involved. What from government side we have done, so we are developing war risk insurance. At the beginning of large-scale invasion and during the first URC, we just was dreaming about the war risks insurance coverage. Now we provide up to all the institutions that are here, provide up to 1 billion coverage. And during this conference, we also want to expand war risk insurance for Ukraine, for companies, Ukrainian and investment companies, foreign companies willing to invest in Ukraine. So now we are working on the compensation mechanism for investors, and I hope that by the end of this year we would finalize the program that would allow us to compensate up to 30% of capex for investors that are going to set up assets business in Ukraine. Now we have industrial parks zone that are providing different incentives, and also we have programs that are providing incentives for compensation of the capexes for projects up to 12 million euro. We have introduced PPP legislation, finally, focused on logistic, healthcare and social infrastructure. Our goal is to attract up to 1 billion through PPPs. So we are scaling the Ukraine investment framework. This week we will sign agreements worth 2.3 billion under Ukraine investment framework for both public and private projects. And if you have capital and really invest, we have prepared projects. So we allocate all projects from the private sector in one single project pipeline, including over 800 different projects across the country. And of course, another major initiative is US Ukraine Recovery Investment Fund, focused on critical raw materials, on oil and gas and critical and related infrastructure. We are now also preparing a large-scale privatization from the government side. It's something It's something that we have not been announced yet, but our team of our ministry working on this, on the speeding up the privatization and looking at the procedure, how to simplify it and to be able to find an effective manager for the state-owned enterprises and for state assets. And we will present an updated investment catalogs to 150 private sector projects across 11 sectors. And also, now we are launching our FDI strategy through 2030. I think it's very important for private sector and for our partner to be predictable. This strategy will focus on risk mitigation, on regulatory transparency, on catalyzing private capital through new tools, and then finally a breakthrough. So for the first time, defense industry is officially launched during this conference. And there is not longer just about weapon. It's about big ecosystem, engineering talent, joint production, and innovative financing. And the defense sector has become one of the fastest growing sector in the country. And we expect new agreements during these days in Rome. And you will see the progress at the business fair. And defense now stands as a separate pillar at the recovery forum. And I think it's a very clear sign that this sector is a true driver of economic recovery and future. So Ukraine is ready. We are building a new economy, and we invite you to be the part of this. And Ukraine is not only about charity and humanitarian support, but Ukraine is about business. And thank you for your trust, and thank you for your partnership.
Well, thank you very much for that and that message. And, you know, you didn't know it, but it wouldn't show. And that's the muscle memory that kicked in that speech. Thank you very much. And, of course, as you said, this conference is not about charity. That was a message in Lugano, in London, also in Berlin. Next year it will happen in Poland. And now on that note, we are very happy that the United Kingdom is represented in this conference. And I will now leave the floor to the UK's Deputy Prime Minister. Angela, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the UK stands with Ukraine as we work towards a more prosperous and secure future. And I know that you share that ambition. And the title of this platform today is Unlocking Growth. And I think it's fair to say you've just heard from the Deputy Prime Minister that Ukraine's recovery has begun and it's open for business. And our actions now will shape the long-term success. I welcome Ukraine's new foreign direct investment strategy, which outlines actions that we can all take, and I'll reflect on the key areas for private capital bidding on that strategy. So development finance institutions are already investing successfully in Ukraine. The UK supports the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which has already directed over half of its €7 billion EUR Ukraine support to the private sector. British International Investment will invest $250 million in Ukraine over the next 3 years. And today, I'm pleased to announce the BIA's €30 million investment in MHP, a leading Ukrainian agriculture firm, alongside the EBRD. This will safeguard jobs, boost resilience, and diversify agricultural production. The UK is also contributing £40 million to the International Finance Corporation to support small and medium-sized businesses. The first deal, backed by a €4 million UK grant alongside a French guarantee, will enable the Ukrainian subsidiaries of credit to offer $275 million in new loans. Now, this is a great example of donors and international financial institutions working together. It will support sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, energy, and it will create 3,700 jobs and dedicate, as the Deputy Prime Minister says, 30% to clean energy projects. We need to develop finance institutions to take on more risk, invest more in equity, and work harder to attract private co-investors. We should also mobilise global finance through capital markets. We welcome Dame Julia Hoggart, the CEO of the London Stock Exchange, to the Ukrainian Business Advisory Council. She'll use the exchange global reach to rally support across our city. Insurance remains a key barrier. And while available, and I commend those that have moved first, it is still too costly, limited and underdeveloped. The UK supports initiatives like the EBRD's facility with Aon and MS Amlin to reduce financial risk. We convened global insurers at Lloyd's in March, and momentum is building. We welcome Ukraine's insurance task force and today's MOU. We're proud to support it. We all need to do much more. Reform is essential to create the right investment climate, and we all know that. And that's why the UK hosted the Wilton Park Conference earlier this year. Our City Ukraine Hub is leveraging in private sector expertise to support the GOU and business in Ukraine, covering arbitration, investment promotion and capital markets. And we're also partnering with the Kiev School of Economics to shape Ukraine's industrial strategy. So private investment is already flowing, but now's the time to double down. We need commitment, ingenuity and innovation, and you have plenty to offer. So I look forward to our discussions on this panel and hearing your thoughts. But everyone that's sat in this hall, the time is now. Let's support Ukraine now and into the future to rebuild. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm always, it's always interesting to see the United Kingdom is one of the countries that always gets the bigger applause in every of these conferences. So that speaks a lot to what you've achieved too. And then now, of course, we moved to the host country because the Italian government was very clear that they wanted to host this conference and in fact put forward the candidacy of Rome. The Prime Minister this morning was also very clear that for Italy it was important to host this conference. So now we want to hear it from Dr. Barbieri, who is the director of the Italian Treasury and also representing Italy, of course. Si muove un pochino. Sì. Bene, così.
Okay. So this doesn't represent a good advertising for Italian microphones. Come si fa? Okay, wonderful. I hope you can hear me at the back. So it's a great pleasure to be here today representing Italy on this panel, of course, once again to restate our strong support for Ukraine in many different forms. As you know, this has also been one of the key themes of our G7 presidency in 2024. No, I'll speak a bit about the promotion of investment and involvement of the private sector. As we have heard this morning, actually the policy focus in Ukraine is really to keep the economy running and recovering. And we've seen how nominal GDP is almost back to pre-crisis levels, which is quite positive. Then obviously repairing damaged infrastructure, start or continue, I should say, the reconstruction and recovery process towards a dynamic, modern, sustainable economy. To this end, risk mitigation, capital contributions, and financing are key to attract private investment. As our focus shifts from emergency relief to long-term recovery, we need to ensure that the financial tools at our disposal are fit for purpose. This means combining speed with sustainability, ambition with accountability, public money with private sector financing. Multilateral development banks have a fundamental role to play in unlocking private capital, supporting infrastructure investment, strengthening institutions, and facilitating Ukraine's integration into global markets. Their coordinated action is key to mobilizing resources, reducing risk, ensuring that reconstruction efforts are inclusive, sustainable, and aligned with international standards. As for the instruments at our disposal, guarantees, insurance, risk-sharing mechanisms are at the core of any strategy to finance recovery in a high-risk environment. Scaling up country risk insurance and credit guarantees is essential to improve the risk-return profile of investments in strategic sectors such as infrastructure, energy, and health. These tools make sound projects investable and enhance the impact of scarce public resources. Well-designed guarantees and risk-sharing mechanisms can create a larger multiplier effect for resources provided by public authorities and development partners. First loss protection and portfolio guarantees can give financial institutions the confidence they need to extend credit, finance working capital, support new ventures under challenging conditions. MDBs can work to make these tools faster, simpler, more user-friendly. This means reducing fragmentation across institutions, harmonizing procedures, and accelerating approval timelines. These instruments already exist. We must ensure they are usable and effective. Country risk mitigation must be coupled with reforms to improve transparency, reduce legal uncertainty, foster institutional stability, and modernize the financial system. The reform effort must include improving the quality and availability of data, streamlining administrative processes, enabling open access to procurement, project pipelines, and investment opportunities. Transparency is the foundation of investor confidence. And obviously, MDBs play a very important role in all these respects. Italy is strongly committed to this shared agenda, not only through its support to multilateral initiatives, but also through the mobilization of national instruments. To quote three areas in which actions are taking place, a key component of Italy's contribution is its export credit system centered around SACE, which operates under a model that combines strong public backing with market-oriented principles, enabling Italian enterprises, including SMEs, to engage confidently in international projects, including those linked to Ukraine's reconstruction. Second, CDP, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, our national promotional bank, complements this action by supporting long-term investments and strategic partnerships, including by cooperating with multilateral development banks. CDP Equity, the investment arm of the National Promotional Bank, supports co-investment in strategic sectors through Italy's sovereign fund. Key areas include logistics, transport, energy, high-tech manufacturing. Third, CIMEST, which is also a member of the CDP group, in 2023 launched a dedicated initiative to support Italian businesses that will participate in Ukraine's reconstruction, combining concessional loans with grants, offering non-repayable export support, subsidizing financing for contractors, and direct investments in joint ventures or local subsidiaries. To conclude, private capital will not mobilize spontaneously in a context of very high uncertainty. Public institutions, both national and multilateral, play a pivotal role by mitigating risk, bolstering confidence, creating the financial architecture that's necessary for reconstruction. It is crucial to create the conditions for Ukraine's private sector to thrive, for international investors to return or to stay, and for long-term partnerships to take root. And that requires not only financial instruments, but also a commitment to rules, transparency, and reforms. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie. Thank you very much, of course, and for putting together this wonderful conference. And then we thought we needed to have Poland at the start of the session, because not only because it's strategically a very important country, but of course, in the case of Ukraine, you were one of the fast countries that helped the country, and also you've just had the presidency of the European Union, and then I know you want to organize this conference also in the future. So now, sir, I will leave the stage to Poland's finance minister. Thank you very much.
Let's see. Hope it's good. Good. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here, and I would like to thank organizers for holding this very important conference. And I'm really confident that as war still rages on, it's crucial that we already speak about the reconstruction and recovery of Ukraine. And it's clear for us that it must be a business-led recovery. I believe that supporting and rebuilding Ukraine is not just a moral imperative. It's a long-term investment in the stability, security, and prosperity of not only Ukraine, but entire region. From Poland's perspective, unlocking sustained investment in Ukraine requires a focused approach across the key areas of investment: trade, logistics, but also energy and infrastructure. Each of these sectors offers real opportunities, but also, as in business, some risks. And it's our shared responsibility to address both. In Poland, our goal remains unchanged: to establish a lasting foundation of Ukraine's self-sustaining recovery based on local entrepreneurship, economic activity, infrastructure connectivity, and trade between Poland and Ukraine. In the investment area, Poland is developing a comprehensive support system for trade and economic expansion based on financial and guarantee instruments provided by the PFR Group Polish Development Fund. Guarantees and grants launched by Polish Development Bank have reached a total value of 320 million euro. In parallel, new financing mechanisms are being developed for companies implementing projects in Ukraine, including private equity funds, risk-sharing mechanisms, and products for small and medium-sized enterprises. Today, together with partners from France, Germany, of course Italy, their respective development banks, and the European Commission, a letter was signed to establish a joint equity fund under the Ukrainian facility. In terms of logistics and connectivity, both Poland and Ukraine are strategically positioned to serve as a complementary logistics hub for that region. This shared ambition may support not only Ukraine's recovery, but also a broader European supply chain resilience. Planned investments include, for example, intermodal infrastructure, transshipment terminals, the expansion and modernization of border crossings, and the effective use of seaport in Gdańsk and Gdynia as alternative delivery corridors. Special economic zones managed by the Industrial Development Agency and the development of investment facility on Polish territory will also play a key role. Ukraine needs to modernize its transportation infrastructure, roads, railways and ports to help develop trade. Poland is investing heavily in cross-border infrastructure, expressways and Euroterminal in Slavków to improve connectivity. But we do need coordinated efforts on both sides of the border. When talking about unlocking investment potential, we must also mention industrial transformation and strategic sectors. Ukraine is undergoing a profound economic shift. We see opportunities in critical raw materials, in logistics, and of course in defense and technology. Ukraine investment environment is clearly moving in the right direction. While some processes have been met with challenges, they reflect a broader shift toward transparency and reform. And as Ukraine continues aligning with EU standards, we are confident the legal and regulatory landscape will become even more stable, open, and attractive to investors. And I do agree with Deputy Prime Minister that the time to invest in Ukraine is now. Finally, we must also talk about energy and infrastructure. Ukraine has presented over $65 billion in energy projects, including renewables and grid modernization. Poland has become a key energy hub for Ukraine, and we are supplying fuels, distributing through LNG, through the Świnoujście terminal, and cooperating on gas transit and storage. There is potential in extending gas transmission capacity of Zamość-Dobrotwir power line and the Rzeszów-Chmielnicki corridor. Ukraine aims to produce up to 1 billion cubic meters of biomethane annually by 2030, positioning itself as a future leader in renewable gas in the region. This presents a unique opportunity for EU partners to support the development of a cross-border green gas market. And unlocking this potential will require a clear policy framework, investment in certification systems, and closer cooperation between public and private stakeholders. This sector, however, is not without challenges, of course. Some potential risk might be identified in price volatility or hybrid threats to infrastructure. Poland, I believe, holds quite a unique position among EU member states due to the presence of a large and well-integrated Ukrainian diaspora, which counts right now to almost 2 million of Ukrainians who are living, working, and studying in Poland and are gaining valuable skills, business experience, and institutional knowledge. I believe that in the years ahead, those people will serve as a vital bridge, facilitating investment, rebuilding local economies, and fostering long-term economic cooperation between our two countries. In conclusion, Ukraine's recovery is not just about rebuilding what was lost. It's about building Ukraine stronger and more resilient. We see Ukraine's recovery as a process that involves not only the physical reconstruction of destroyed infrastructure, but also as a comprehensive modernization of the state in line with the Build Back Better principle. Poland is ready to lead, to partner, and to deliver together with Ukraine and our European allies. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, of course, to the four of you. I know that you are very busy, that you have many meetings, so we're still very grateful, however, that you decided to take the time and set the scene for us. So before we let you go, please a round of applause, and see you next year in Poland. And now we will continue with our session, but just give us 1 second to reset. Thank you very much. to the second part of this session. It's a panel discussion that I will be leading, and for that I am very happy to be joined by Andriy Prevshny. He is the governor of the National Bank of Ukraine. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Gerd Koopman, he is Director General at DG NIR, representing the European Commission. Of course, this is a department to strip away the jargon that is crucial in connecting Ukraine and the European Union. We're also joined, and very happy that we have an American on the panel, by Connor Coleman. He's the head of investments of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Thank you very much. Teresa Czerwinska, she is Vice President of the European Investment Bank. We're also joined by Ines Rocha. She is Director for Europe at the International Finance Corporation. Thank you for being with us. Representing Italy, of course, we have many Italians, but that's good, I think. By Matteo Patrone, he is the Vice President of the EBRD. And lastly, And lastly, by La Dottoressa Alessandra Ricci, she is the CEO of the Italian Export Credit Agency, and of course, a very important role when it comes to facilitating business. So thank you very much for being with us. And I'm being told maybe the commissioner will join us at some point. If he does, well, we'll invite him. If not, then we continue our conversation. So thank you very much. The first question, sir, that I would like to ask you is, of course, a central bank is always very important when it comes to making an economy stable, sustainable. It's a difficult job, but I wonder, from the National Bank of Ukraine and the monetary policy perspective and stabilization, too, of an economy, what role do you believe you can play in 2025, in this year?
Доброго дня, я говоритиму українською.
I will speak Ukrainian. So, first of all, I would like to thank you.
He will now switch to Ukrainian, so please, if you have your headset, and you can put it on, that would be great. And then we'll go back to English. Thank you very much. You're doing my job better than I should be doing it.
Is everything all right? Can I carry on? So, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the floor and taking part in this panel. So, the question that you have asked is a fundamental question for us to be successful in the recovery of Ukraine. Can you hear me? Okay. So macrofinance stability is the basis of everything, is the pillar for the future of Ukraine, for our resistance right now and afterwards when we need to recover. And the Ukrainian economy, over this more than 1,200 days of war, has been recovering, and the economic growth in 2023, after a sharp fall, dramatic fall by 30%, so it started to recover by 5%. And the economic recovery in 2024 stood at 3%, and we forecast the same growth for this year, around 3% for this year. So this shows that during this war, Ukrainian business people have found an optimal model that allowed them to adapt to the war-related challenges. And the national government and the National Bank of Ukraine came up with solutions, both when it comes to the monetary policy and the financial stability. And these two factors are enablers for efficient. I will be specific in terms of the results deliverables when it comes to the state of the Ukrainian economy. Inflation. It is a key mandate. It is in the purview of our national bank when it comes to the price stability. 2022, 27% when it comes to the inflation. There was budget deficit, and then we had a regular financial aid on a regular basis. So the National Bank had to do the emission financing. And back in 2022, by joint efforts of the government and the National Bank, and thanks to the ongoing support from our allies and partners, we managed to step back when it comes to the emissions of the state budget. And in 2024, we stuck to the solution, not resorting to the emissions and not to monetizing the budget deficit. I hope that today's important political statements will allow us in 2026 see a sustainable and self-sufficient economy as well as our defense sector. Macrofinance assistance and stability, this has to go in hand with defense and is an important prerequisite. So the National Bank of Ukraine has decided by 2027 to ensure 100% equivalence and 100% compliance with the EU standards and requirements. At the beginning of the full-scale invasion, it was about 50%. Now it's 77%. So in 2 years, our team will finalize this procedure, and so we will be 100% compliant with the EU requirements, because the EU integration is a top priority both for the national government and for the entire country. War-related risks, insurances. I hope that by the end of this year, the Ukrainian parliament will pass the law. We need to attract private equity, private capital into the recovery and reconstruction. This is an issue that both the government and the National Bank are focusing on. Tomorrow, with our colleagues from the EBRD, we will sign a memorandum and we will pass a roadmap. Finally, banking sector. The banking sector is liquid, is profitable, and is efficient. Despite the war, there was a 30% increase in money lending. Our finance system must be an efficient intermediary between the private equity and the needs of Ukraine in terms of recovery. I am convinced, and I can assure you that the National Bank understands and is aware of the responsibility that we need to make everything possible and make sure that we ensure financial stability.
You know, I was told be very short with the questions because we don't have a lot of time. But I'm very glad that you're here because you have incredible technical knowledge, and being a central banker is a very difficult job. Of a country that's at war, it's even more difficult. This what you're doing is exceptional. So I wonder, just briefly, when you leave this conference, what is the one thing perhaps that you hope to see from your partners that can help you stabilize the economy further, as you just described?
What are our expectations? Well, increased sanctions a sanction policy that is very powerful is of principal importance, and I will call upon you to be very resilient in this respect, because sanctions, they do not allow Russia to have this bloodthirsty war. It decreases their resources, increases resources that we need for recovery, for investments, take away those resources from Russia that Russia gets today through the gaps that exist in sanction regimes. That's why the sanction policy is a priority. Next, be courageous as regards frozen Russian assets. Frozen Russian assets, that's an absolutely adequate and legally justified source to cover the needs of Ukraine as regards our defense capabilities and recovery. Let's be ambitious in that respect as well. I'm more than confident that the first steps where you will be able to show common position of solidarity between all the partners that would open up access not only to the revenues generated by the frozen assets, but to the body of it will be very clear, and an adequate response to what is happening today and to what is happening, what has been happening during 1,233 days of this full-scale war. Don't be afraid of investing into Ukraine. We are working to create maximum safe conditions, convenient conditions. When I hear about the reforms that Ukraine is carrying out, I often think that this is something similar to when you operate a person, an open heart operation, while the person is running a marathon at the same time. At that time, they're still trying to hit this person with bombs. Ukraine is transforming in each and every of its elements: social, financial system, rule of law. We have been providing during those 3 years of a full-scale war macro-financial stability on the level that should clearly confirm to you that we are capable of being a reliable partner. Invest into Ukraine. Don't think about the losses that Ukraine only needs today in terms of just losses. Look at that in terms of investments. Every dollar, every euro that today would be spent to support Ukraine would save for the European Union at least 10 units. That's not what I have decided. That's a recent study, recently published. Because of that, stay with us, believe in us, and let's do it together. Let's do this great thing. Let's rebuild. Let's recover and bring back not only justice, but Ukraine after all the damage it has suffered.
Really, this is it really is an exceptional panel that we have today. And now a question for you, Mr. Koopman. Beyond the technicalities of what degeneer means in real language, if you believe Ukraine will one day join the European Union, a lot of that will be filtered and done through your responsibility and your DG. So on that note, first I wanted to ask you, the president of the commission made a lot of announcements this week. She talked about this equity fund, I guess perhaps just a very quick explanation, but also she said we should move on and cluster 1 should be opened. Again, this is a very technical process of Ukraine joining eventually the European Union. So I wonder if you could give us the perspectives, the horizons for 2025.
Thank you very much, Maria, and hello to everyone here. Thank you for having us. Thank you to our hosts. Maybe to start with the accession process, the governor was describing all the reforms. So essentially what this means is changing the software of the state and putting European software on your Ukrainian computer. That is, I think, a good analogy. Now, that's organized in different clusters. It's organized in different steps. And there are 6 of those. We will this year look at all of those and have nearly finished. And essentially what our president was saying this morning is that member states, Ukraine and the Commission are agreed that we can move on with this first step for this first cluster, this first part of this. So the first part of the software is going to be launched. And essentially, we have one member state that is not yet convinced, to put it politely, but the message is we need to move forward.
It's Hungary.
It's Hungary. We need to move forward, and we will actually be moving forward because the technical work is being done. Ukraine is actually taking the necessary steps. We are bringing this forward, and I'm very confident that by the end of this year, the actual material work on the whole of the 6 clusters will have been launched, which is about 2 to 3 times as fast as for other countries. And as the governor was saying, actually, this is done in circumstances which you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. So it's a major, major achievement, and I think it's a testimony to the determination of the Ukrainians to move to the EU. So I'm very optimistic given the factual work that is being done. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that. Yes, thanks. Well, surprise, we're now being joined also by Valdis Dombrovskis, who is Commissioner for the Economy, if I remember it correctly, also implementation, also simplification, many words that end in Asian, and you think have an impact. The President of the Commission said today the European Union is the biggest contributor now to Ukraine by a lot, and 85% of the funding will come from us. So I wonder, Commission, because I know you're busy and you may have to go before, I wonder for 2025, what can realistically we expect in terms of sanctions, in terms of pressure on Russia, in terms of developments when it comes to Ukraine, and also, you know, we have to talk about this. I hate to bring it up all the time, but countries like Hungary, Slovakia, the EU works with unanimity, and it's becoming more and more difficult to achieve it.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to join for this session in Ukraine Recovery Conference. So in terms of EU's financial support for Ukraine, indeed, we are by far the largest contributor to Ukraine. So far, we have provided financing of some 165 billion euros to Ukraine. And we had been very clear in our commitment to continue to provide all necessary financing for as long as it will be needed. So concretely, this year we can be disbursing more than 30 billion euros to Ukraine. Out of this, 18 billion euros for our macro-financial assistance program. Just today, we are disbursing 1 billion euros. And this is our contribution to G7 Air Loans program. And there we should acknowledge also the leadership of Italian G7 presidency, which was championing this initiative, that it has become reality. And all G7 partners are contributing and disbursing to Ukraine in a framework of this initiative. And right now we are focusing our discussions already for 2026, how we do this financing going forward, what we can do in terms of European budget, what we can do in terms of leveraging further the revenue flows from immobilized Russian assets, looking also at other options. So this work is currently ongoing, and we'll do this also obviously in a coordination with International Monetary Fund and our G7 and other like-minded partners. As regards sanctions against Russia, it's important that we continue to put this pressure. So far, we enacted 17 sanctions packages, and right now negotiations are ongoing on the 18th sanctions package. You rightly noted that this is a principle of unanimity, and unfortunately, we are not always as fast and as forceful as we should be. But nevertheless, we had been able so far every time reach at the end of the day unanimity and consensus on those sanctions, and confident this is going to be the case also with the 18 sanctions package, because we see that sanctions are working, that Russia's economy is facing mounting difficulties. So it's important that we continue to put pressure on Russia, both through new sanctions and also very much through implementation of existing sanctions and fighting its circumvention, because already we have, I'd say, unprecedented sanctions against Russia, and increasingly this focus is to make sure that they are properly implemented and not being circumvented.
Just very briefly, sir. Very, very briefly, but we always ask this in this conference for companies and even taxpayer money. When they think about the amounts, which are significant, they're big numbers. 165 billion euros, I believe the president said. Why should that money go to Ukraine? Just very briefly, and since you mentioned Russia, there's always this idea that the sanctions are working, but they were designed to cripple the Russian economy, and Russia is still able to fight a war. So is it really doing all that damage?
On the first question, why it is important to provide financial support for Ukraine? Well, first of all, Ukraine is facing Russia's brutal, unprovoked and illegal aggression. So we need to support Ukraine as a like-minded democracy, and we need to support and uphold rules-based international order, because at the end of the day that works better for everyone. Second point, Russia is openly talking about invading other countries, also EU and NATO countries. First of all, we see that this Russia's expansionism is real. It's waging this brutal war for more than 3 years against Ukraine. It has been invading Georgia and occupied parts of territory on Georgia before. It has created a frozen conflict on Moldova. So it's clearly that Russia is also testing its limits. And if it's seeing that it can get away with this expansionism and imperialism, it will continue to go on. So Russia really needs to be stopped. And that requires our collective effort, and that requires also our support for Ukraine, because reaching a just and lasting peace in Ukraine is the best security guarantee also for Europe. But obviously we also need to invest much more in our own defense capacities, defense industry, and that's why we came with this Rearm Europe initiative, aiming to mobilize up to 800 billion euros to strengthening our own defense capabilities and to support Ukraine. On the second question on sanctions, sanctions are working, and we see lots of difficulties in Russian economy in terms of industrial production, in terms of inflation, in terms of interest rates, which Russia's central bank is forced to put on its economy, and so on and so forth. But it's also true that Russia also is finding its way. Russia has turned its economy in war economy. Well over half of its budget goes to its war effort, and Russia has found alternative markets for its energy with major economies like China, India, and so forth. So it's true that it's like-minded democratic countries which are primarily applying sanctions against Russia, but there are many other countries which are not applying sanctions against Russia, and it is reducing its efficiency. But that doesn't mean that we should stop putting pressure to the extent we can, and we can do more, and we have to do more, and we also have to work with all those third countries, also to the extent possible, to prevent a circumvention of sanctions and to prevent those countries contributing to Russia's war effort.
Well, thank you very much for that. And now I will do a slight change of plan, because here's a question for you, Mr. Coleman. Obviously, it's clear to everyone that no one speaks on behalf of President Trump except for President Trump. But, we're going to take advantage of you're the American on this panel. There's been a lot of questions this year about what the U.S. is thinking in terms of the world. There's been an open question as to whether the U.S. is really interested in anything related to Ukraine beyond just putting an end to something that may look like a ceasefire, but what happens after? So I wonder, are there misconceptions that we don't understand about you? Are there things that we don't fully know how to interpret? What can we expect from an institution like yours?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm honored to be here with my esteemed colleagues doing so much to help Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. And as you pointed out, the only non-European on the panel here today. But in all seriousness, I'm really honored to be a representative of the United States government here talking with you all today and showing the commitment of the U.S. government, first and foremost, to a durable, sustaining, long-lasting peace, and discuss how we at the U.S. government and specifically the DFC aim to be a leader in Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Look, I think the theme of the conference is pretty clear here. The time to invest is now. I've been very encouraged by the energy of the conference, particularly from the private sector, that really is showing a willingness to participate in the discussions now. And at the end of the day, the private sector is absolutely vital to Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Us at the DFC, we have a Ukraine portfolio of currently about 2.5 billion and an active pipeline of about 1 billion. We invest across many different sectors like critical minerals, infrastructure, telecom, energy, food security, and agriculture and health. Even with this portfolio, and I'm extremely proud of the team at DFC for putting it together, there's more to do. A theme of us at the DFC we've been discussing a lot is how to truly mobilize private capital. And I think there's two key pillars to doing this. First and foremost, it's starting to take the riskier parts of the capital structure. It's being flexible capital providers to our partners, playing in the mezzanine, playing in the structured equity, playing in the common equity more, and really utilizing our dollars as a multiplier effect for private capital dollars going into the business. We want to see 2, 3, 4x dollars sitting above us. And then secondarily, and just as important, it's being true partners throughout the life cycle of the investment. It's not just the underwriting phase, but it's the portfolio management that drives the most impact in ensuring that we are that effective bridge between the local government and the private sector of effectuating the impact that we all underwrote. And look, I think I'm really excited here to discuss today another amazing tool in the toolkit that we now have, and this is the U.S.-Ukraine Reconstruction Fund. And first and foremost, I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister, the Ukrainian government for all the hard work and the Go Forward partnership, which we both are extremely excited about overall. And I think it's a first of its kind vehicle to invest in strategic assets that benefit both the United States and the Ukraine and our allied partners too, who we hope will co-invest once the fund is operational. Look, right now we are working very hard to get it operational and thinking through the investment thesis, which we will hope to share with you all once we kind of finalize that.
And you know when that's going to be roughly, because there's a lot of interest,
Yeah.
but also questions that it's not maybe as fast as initially thought.
Yeah, the aim is to be operational by the end of the year. That is the goal, and I'm actually going to a working session after this panel with the Ukrainian government to work on it. Moral of the story here, guys, I'm here to show that this fund is real and is going to be active, and it's going to play a big part in the Ukraine reconstruction overall. And when it comes to the investment thesis that we're working on fleshing out right now, two things I can promise on this. One, it's going to focus on mobilizing the private sector overall, and how do we partner with it? And two, and from an investment strategy, is going to look at how to achieve vertical integration across these key strategic avenues. You have to think about, for critical minerals, investing in the upstream, midstream, and downstream, as well as the infrastructure and energy necessary to make it a sustainable ecosystem overall. Overall, there's a lot of work to do, and I'm proud here to be a representative of the U.S. government to say that we're looking forward to partnering with Ukraine, our allied partners, and the private sector for the work that needs to be done in Ukraine's reconstruction. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Just very quickly, just a follow-up, just very quickly follow-up. You're saying you're very proud of being an American that's participating in this conference, and you've put this effort together and you have this deal. I wonder, however, there's this idea at times from the U.S. administration that, you know, the problem is that we pay a lot and the Europeans don't pay. We've seen the numbers this morning. They're big numbers. The Europeans have put billions to. Do you walk away from this conference thinking, actually, it is a real joint effort? It's the U.S., but the Europeans are also paying a lot of money.
Absolutely, and we're actively looking for, and we want to co-invest with our European partners alongside the fund once it's operationalized, and in the intermediate period of time at the DFC, partner with our European colleagues overall for kind of investments until the fund's operationalized. Co-investment is essential to achieving what we need to do for Ukraine's reconstruction, and we're looking forward to partnering with all of our allied partners.
Thanks for that. So we pay. A question perhaps for you, Mara Chevinska. When you look at an institution like yours, what role do you already do a lot at the European Investment Bank? It's also a bank that it's in a moment of transformation, it seems to me too, in terms of the priorities into defense and security. How do you hope in a real material way that you come out of this conference with things that you can project in Ukraine?
So thank you very much for the question, and I'm really happy to sit in the panel Strategic Vision for a Business-Led Recovery, because indeed we strongly believe that the time to invest in Ukraine is now, and the recovery of Ukraine needs to be business-led. So this is a real critical point. As the European Investment Bank, here I am representing bank and European Investment Fund because we are the group, and together we are focusing on supporting Ukraine as long as it takes. So perhaps very briefly at the beginning, because you said that we are doing a lot already in Ukraine and what are our plans. So indeed, even before war started, we collected in Ukraine investment portfolio totaling more than 7 billion euros. And since the war started, we provided 3 billion euros of financing to Ukraine, of which more than 2 billion euros we already disbursed. So we are reaching cruising speed on implementing projects in Ukraine. And we strongly believe that Ukraine facility and Ukraine plan is a powerful tool to ensure alignment of development banks and donors on objectives and priorities. So we are making a good use of Ukraine facility guarantees to deliver on the ground during the war. My second maybe point, how do we see our role and real delivery in business-led recovery? So first of all, we believe that what we are doing in Ukraine, namely we are recovering municipal infrastructure, we are recovering critical infrastructure, is crucial for doing business, because business needs infrastructure, not only roads, border crossing points, but also water, but also they need schools, they need hospitals, they need really good infrastructure on the ground. Without good infrastructure, it's difficult to attract private business to Ukraine. Secondly, when it comes to the SMEs and private capital, so we strongly believe that we need to tighten cooperation and build a single market. So on the one hand, we are supporting Ukrainian SMEs by providing financing and guarantees to the Ukrainian banking sector. Just today, before the panel, we signed the package totaling for all infrastructure, SMEs, transport, solidarity lanes, almost 600 million euros. So this is a substantial amount of money which is available for Ukrainians, SMEs, transport, energy sector, etc. now. So we believe that supporting SMEs is one point. But another very important part of supporting business-led recovery is also to attract private sector from the EU and outside to Ukraine. And for this, we need the risking. We need the risking instruments. This is why we signed today also with export credit agencies guarantees agreement to provide to offer the instrument for the risking business in Ukraine, because otherwise, without providing sufficient de-risking, is also very difficult to attract private capital to Ukraine. And finally, our role is also in attracting private capital, also to provide quality stamp to the projects. Just yesterday, we announced at the Donor Coordination Platform Ukraine First Project Preparation Facility for supporting Ukrainian authorities, both at central and municipal level, on project preparation. Because as Deputy Prime Minister Sviridenko said, we are not charity. We are a financial institution. We provide financing on assessment of risk and profit. And when business partners see that EIB Group, EIF, EIB is entering the business, we also attract and support other partners and encourage other partners to come. So those are 3 pillars of our activity for business-led recovery.
Well, thank you very much. And a question perhaps for you, Ines Rocha. Thank you so much. You know, I've done this conference many years now, and every year is the same message. Invest in Ukraine now. This is the time. There's a lot of announcements that are announced. But yet, the following year, we hear, oh, this is really the time to invest in Ukraine. So I wonder, it's a tough question, especially in this conference, but does a conference like this actually trigger real, meaningful business?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. Excellent. I think it does. I have actually just been in a number of signings on real projects connected to the conference. I'll give you a couple of examples. We did just now, actually, together here with my colleagues of EBRD, the first ever VC fund that is supported by institutional investors, and this is really important. I mean, this is supporting entrepreneurship, real businesses on the ground, and we do have actually a pipeline also on private equity. I can spot some of our clients here, Horizon and others with whom we have been investing. We have also signing a greenfield on renewable energy as well, just today, a risk-sharing facility with banks, working on renewable energy and decentralization of solar energy. So I think actually the conference is important because it gathers all of us. And here, just to mention also to my colleague, I mean, I am European, but I actually represent a global institution. I mean, the World Bank is a global institution. Our largest shareholder is the US. We have been supporting Ukraine since, day one after the invasion, mobilizing $2.4 billion. But overall, the World Bank Group has mobilized $81 billion of funds into Ukraine. So the point I'm making is that I think these conferences are important for us to, make commitments, discuss important issues, push on reforms. We had a Ukraine donor platform yesterday as well. Actually, many of us were there. And it is really, it does push on investments and commitments. And also, I think it gives a strong signaling that institutions like ourselves are ready to make commitments. And here, just a special thanks as well to our donors, and we have here the representative of the European Commission. De-risking and access to guarantees, it really makes a huge difference for us to make the investments. And we would not have been able to do this without them. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. And a question on that note, Dottoressa Ricci, the question, there's tools already available and instruments have been created. But I wonder, is there a form of just lack of awareness? I mean, the point is that by the end of this, you're going to put what you sign into real business. That's the whole point of it. It needs to turn into something. How can you make it perhaps more visible? Is that the issue at times? You have companies that want to invest in Ukraine but actually don't know how to do it? Is that one of the problems you encounter?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, because what we have done so far, we have approved a plafond in terms of what we can do as such in terms of guarantees that can be issued in favor of projects which are done in Ukraine and which are going to be realized by Italian companies of 1.5 billion euros, which is an important amount. Just to give you a comparison, before the war, the amount of exposure we had in Ukraine was 1 billion. So what we have decided is to give a strong signal in terms of what we can do to apply a multiplier effect on the amount we did in the past. That was our signal to say we are here to support projects in Ukraine. Again, to do that, we need to find Italian interests and Ukrainian interests to go together. And that is the one thing on which we have been working in the last month. Starting from the previous conference, which was held in Milan, we have decided together with the Deputy Minister of Ukraine to organize meetings between the government of Ukraine and Italian companies, through which the government have explained directly to 100 Italian companies the major project they want to invest. And by saying that there were a lot of projects in which the Italian companies would be willing to bid for, they can do it because they know that if they bid and they are awarded with the contracts, then they will be followed by the protection of SACE. So this is something we have been doing. The last one has been done on the 24th of June. And afterwards, after this B2G meeting, we have organized what we call the B2B meetings. So having selected so far 10 Italian companies who have been manifesting their interest to be for those contracts, then we have organized subsequent meetings between Ukrainian companies and Italian companies. So the first point for us is create opportunities, because financing is good, providing guarantees is good, but the first things to do is to believe that there are opportunities and put them together, to put together Italian companies and Ukrainian government. To do that, we can do that alone, but we are not alone, as it was mentioned by our minister, the Treasury. We need to work with the others, because guarantees are just a leverage that can leverage private funds to come into the market. That's why the presence of such a guarantee can add the capability of the private market, the private banks, to invest and finance transactions. On top of that, we have today signed 3 agreements. The first was already mentioned, which was in respect of an agreement with EIB, which is dedicated to the small and medium enterprises. Since we have this platform of 1.5 billion, but we think is not enough, it's important that we partner with the others in order to enlarge our capacity. And that is one of the instruments through which we can enlarge our capacity. So we can enlarge our capacity together with EIB to support especially the business of SMEs. Second agreement we assigned is with URC Bank. Why? Because we have to work not only with the government, we have to work not only with private companies, with corporates, we have to work also with the banking system. And working with the banking system, we need to work with URC Bank. And that's why we have signed this agreement. Third agreement, clearly we have signed with the government, and together with the other Italian institutions that can support the connection between Italy and Ukraine, meaning CDP and Siemens, in order to enlarge our capabilities to work together. So what I'm really proud is that today, because there are a lot of meetings which are taking place in the other floor of these enormous buildings, where Italian companies and Ukrainian companies are meeting together to find the possible contracts, and we are here as SACE able to support them once the contract is signed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and that's the whole point, to sign the contract. So, Matteo, on the EBRD, again, it's another important institution. The question at times is, on the practicalities, what can you do that actually has a meaningful impact? So 2 very brief questions. What do you hope comes out of this conference that's concrete? And then 2, what's the plan that you have until the end of 2025 for the EBRD and your strategy when it comes to Ukraine?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I always say that people say that the EBRD is one of the largest investors in Ukraine, or the largest institutional investors in Ukraine. I keep responding yes, but it's also true the opposite, that Ukraine is actually one of the largest markets for the EBRD, always featuring number 1, 2, or 3, depending on the year. And this has increased after the unjustified aggression of Russia. And we have cumulative investment in Ukraine for 21 billion euros. Since the beginning of the aggression, we have deployed, as of the end of this conference, 7.6 billion euros, out of which 400 million actually we're going to sign in these 2 days. These 7.6 billion euros are deployed through 180 transactions, and 85% of those transactions are in the private sector. So clearly there is a focus for us in attracting private sector, supporting FDIs that are already present in the country, but also supporting local companies. And because we realize that we need to, on one side, support the fiscal revenues for the country, but on the other side, also offer an opportunities to, and support the offering of opportunities to the Ukrainian citizens. Why Ukraine is so mission critical for us is because indeed it is an extremely important country in the region of operation of the BRD. And this is recognized by our shareholders, including the US, that has been the first one actually to come to support us. And Ines knows very well that because she was at the forefront when she was a colleague of mine. The US came with $500 million to support our operations in Ukraine at the beginning of the conflict. And now we got an increase of capital for 4 billion euros. So Ukraine continues to remain mission critical for us. And last year only we invested 2.4 billion euros. This year we are already at 1.4 at the end of this week. So we will continue supporting the Ukrainian economy along 5 areas. The first and most important one is obviously energy security, and we will discuss this later on in another panel, but also critical infrastructure, logistic infrastructure and municipal infrastructure, the agribusiness value chain, the resilience of the private sector, and what is extremely important, and I'm very glad to have Sacha here as well, is trade. And we are providing counter guarantees for trade facilitation, and this amounts to more than $1 billion of those 7 billion euros. What we expect from this conference is exactly what Ines said, is these conferences are extremely helpful, obviously, to keep the file on the map of many investors, but also very helpful to discipline processes. And that's why we were able to finance 400 million euros and sign 400 million euros of activities. What is extremely crucial, I think, is the leverage effect, the multiplier effect. And let me just mention 2 instruments that we put in place, because I see the CEOs of a number of partner banks, Ukresin Bank, Oshad Bank, and others here. The portfolio resharing that we put in place has allowed the mobilization of 2.7 billion euros of financing to SMEs so far. And what we have signed in this conference add another 900 million euros. And private equity is extremely important. We have invested in a number of private equity operations. Horizon is one. The one signed by Ines this morning with our colleagues is another one. And we have a pipeline of another 100 million euros for private equity investors that are willing to raise 600 million euros.
Well, that's a significant amount of money. And Ludovico is telling me that I have to finish, but I have 2 final questions under 1 minute, I promise you. Mr. Kurban, just a question that puts us all together. There's always this idea that Ukraine and the European Union, this all sounds great and ideal and whatnot, but in some ways, isn't it an illusion? So what I'm asking you is, do you really believe Ukraine will be a member of the European Union? And why would that be good for the European Union? We know the reason why it's good for Ukraine, but why is it good for us?
Well, let me tell you that Ukraine is already becoming a member of the European Union, because in many areas we are already integrating Ukraine in our economic system. Payments, trade, digital, they're already participating in the EU. So the process is pretty irreversible. And I think that's a very important message. Next year, if you invest in industrial capacity in Ukraine, you will be able to export to the whole of the internal market. So that is preceding enlargement or accession from a Ukrainian standpoint. Why is this good for Europe? Well, I think Commissioner Dombrovskis has already explained the security dimension. That's very, very clear. But Ukraine is a talented nation that is developing innovation in fields that are incredibly important for the economy of tomorrow. And Ukraine is an economic powerhouse. If you go back to the enlargement of 2004, let me quote you 2 statistics. The countries that joined the EU then benefited 30% of their national income just on account of enlargement. But the countries that existed then before as EU member states benefited 10%. So we all benefit because our internal market grows. 10% of our economy is a lot to play for, and Ukraine has a lot to offer, and I think that is why, we are so convinced that it's not just good for them, it's also very,
Even
very
if
good
some
for us.
believe very quickly that it could lead to a form of competition that could be a problem.
But look at the historical precedent. Look at the countries in the Baltics. Look at Poland. Look at the Czech Republic. There's absolutely no reason why Ukraine wouldn't be another Wirtschaftswunder, as Chancellor Merz said just this morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dombrovskis. We have to go 20 seconds. The U.S.-EU trade deal, again, I don't want to be controversial, but the French president said it clearly. You can't talk on the one hand about collaborating and on the other one putting tariffs on countries that you say are allies. Are we going to get a deal, yes or no?
Well, we are working on this. As you know, in a sense, we have a bit more time now till 1st of August. So those negotiations are continuing intensively, both at political and technical level. So from a European Union side, we had always been very clear that we want a negotiated solution. So there is lots of stake economically because EU-US trade and investment relationships are largest in the world. And exactly as you put, in current geopolitical situation, when autocracies are increasingly challenging democracies around the world, it's important that like-minded democracies work together as partners. And that's the spirit of, at which we approach also those negotiations.
Thank you. 3 more weeks of this still. Well, thank you so much. We have reached the end of this panel, this exceptional panel. Please, huge round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us.
that we need to concentrate this timing because of the next session of the Italian president. So we need to move forward. Again, welcome to this pivotal session of the 2025 Ukraine Recovery Conference. It's both an honor and a responsibility to open today's discussion on a topic that lies at the heart of the Ukraine recovery and future prosperity. Restoring Ukraine energy infrastructure and investing in energy resilience. Energy is more than a utility. It's the lifeblood and a nation's sovereignty, economy, and security. Energy systems are not just technical assets, but strategic pillars of nation defense and democratic stability. It's now my honor to formally open the first round of our session dedicated to the institutional perspective. To set the stage for our discussion, it's a privilege to introduce a keynote address by Gilberto Pichetto Fratin, Ministro dell'Ambiente e della Sicurezza Energetica. Please, Minister.
Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to welcome you all, to welcome the representatives of the countries participating in this important conference, attending this important conference, and attending this panel because it's a commitment and support to showing solidarity to the Ukrainian people, because there has been great damage to energy infrastructure by Russian attack. In addition to testimony, there is the concrete commitment of Italian government in promoting initiatives and in involving private sector in recovery, so that from Rome there will be concrete projects stemming from different stakeholders to support Ukraine in a strategic sector such as energy sector. We know which are the energy needs of Ukraine. We know that they have to cope with emergencies which still prevail due to this long conflict, and to guarantee energy security, to move it to a more stable system of decarbonization that Ukraine is looking at. And we do hope that the war will come to an end. The damage to power plants, water power plants, and nuclear plants, and to the plants of renewables caused a loss of energy production, which support fundamental needs of Ukrainian people. Many people did not have access to basic needs, and that's why it's important to protect critical infrastructures, decentralizing energy production to meet the needs of this population in the medium and long term. The distributed production, growing use of wind, geothermal, biomass, renewable sources, the expansion of transmitting energy through European Union, energy efficiency, innovation, and modernization of networks will be of paramount importance to create a decarbonized and resilient energy system, which is closely related to the one of the European Union. We have to take several actions, and international cooperation and initiatives of bilateral plans will play a fundamental role. Amongst these initiatives, what is of great interest is the agreement that was entered today between our TSO SNAM and the Ukrainian GTSO, on regulatory and technical issues and analysis of transport and natural gas transport schemes. So this will certainly increase the potential of the Ukrainian system, but will have a positive fallout for our country. Much has been done in terms of international aid and concrete initiatives. On a bilateral level, Italy proved to be a great country, providing material for energy infrastructures through cooperation and development and through private donations and investments, which came through civil defense. Italy was on the front line in terms of bilateral agreements with the Memorandum of Understanding signed in Dubai during COP28 between our Ministries of Energy, and this represents a very important tool to support Ukraine and to represent a framework for active cooperation with Ukraine. The Memorandum of Understanding was paved the way to this forum because Ukrainian system must become decarbonized and resilient. We have to look at renewables and we have to look at energy sources with low CO2 emissions. So this will go to the benefit of all the stakeholders that are represented here. This is a technical framework that was set up by the two ministries, and we can achieve concrete projects with the contribution of everyone. Obviously, renewables and energy efficiency are the most important aspects, but there is room for expertise as well, especially in the field of emerging energy sector. If one of the inspiring principles of the Rome meeting is to better reconstruct, a principle that is very important in energy is to reconstruct together, have this recovery working together. Thank you.
Grazie, Ministro.
Thank you, Minister.
Round, and I'm pleased to give the floor to Adolfo Urso, Ministro delle Imprese e del Made in Italy.
Mi fa piacere essere
It's a pleasure for me to be here today, together with Minister Pichetto Fratin, to give an important sign of to show how our country, Italy, is committed in recovery of Ukraine. The panel that we are attending, restoring Ukraine's energy infrastructure and investing in energy resilience, this panel is certainly crucial to strengthen cooperation with Ukraine within the framework of post-war reconstruction, recovery, and energy transition that has to start right now to give a sign of hope to Ukrainian people. I would like to express our full support to our friendly nation, Ukraine, which is part of the European Union. Italy has been and will always be near Ukrainian people, even and to support the legitimate accession to European Union. I myself went to Ukraine several times in previous mandates and also over the past 20 years. And I went to Ukraine also during the war, and more specifically in September 2022. I went to Ukraine on behalf of Giorgia Meloni to guarantee, to tell President Zelensky that Italy, the new government, would keep the commitment to support Ukraine in its to support Ukraine in resisting in this in the war of aggression. It was 2022, and I think it was important for them to understand that and to realize that the coalition government would strengthen would reiterate the support. I went to Ukraine after I was appointed minister. I was the first minister of the Meloni government in January 2023. And since that time, we had several encounters and meetings in Italy and in international forum, bilateral, multilateral venues and meetings, especially the meeting, G7 meeting that was held in Verona March last year, that actually paved the way, that started the G7 Italian presidency. And today we have to dwell upon a very important topic, that is critical raw materials, which are a foundation for the dual transition, green and digital transition that our continent is committed in. Without critical raw materials, it won't be possible to have a green and digital transition to provide Europe strategic autonomy. We will switch from dependency on Russian gas that Ukrainians are paying a high price for to a greater organic dependency on other continents. So we have to tackle the topic of critical raw materials that underline the dual transition. This is what we have done with Ukrainian government within the framework of European regulation on raw materials that allow us to achieve strategic autonomy of our continent in extraction of raw materials, processing of critical raw materials, and recycling critical raw materials. This is certainly a very important point in our goal. And on this topic, in June 2023, the first trilateral meeting took place. Italy, France, and Germany, meeting on industrial policy that led European Union to issue and enact the regulation of raw materials that we have implemented with a decree by the Minister of Energy, and that was approved, passed by our parliament. Aerospace, energy, sustainable mobility are sectors where raw materials are of paramount importance, and we must make use of them in our continent to achieve autonomy and therefore independence in Europe. Within this framework, international cooperation takes a very important role. Italy, as a country, as an important member country within EU, wants to diversify sources of energy. And over the past few months, we have signed several agreements also in bilateral meetings coordinated by our Prime Minister to support and develop a supply line which guarantees autonomy in supply of critical raw materials. In November last year, 2024, we started structured cooperation with Ukraine through a joint signing of joint declaration, which is about the supply chain of critical raw materials and ways of and different sources of supply. The goal is to create integrated supply line that uses and integrates Italian and Ukrainian resources, promoting sustainable investments and promoting high advanced technologies of extraction and processing. So this represents a concrete basis to strengthen industrial cooperation. For us, energy resilience passes through the ability to set up strategic partnership and to value available resources in a transparent and sustainable way. Italy will play its role within the European Union to guarantee energy security, which is also based and certainly based on security of raw material, critical raw material supply. This cooperation was recognized today with the agreement on investment of MedInvest in Tuscany, Piombino, together with an important company, Danieli, which will build in Piombino. We will set up one of the biggest green iron poles, possibly reconstructing the pole of Mariupol in Italy in a large Italian port, Piombino. And we, as the Ministry of Enterprises and Made in Italy, we support Ukraine in this on this way. We support it with our investment agencies, and we do hope that today's meeting that is focusing on restoring Ukraine's energy infrastructure can give a sign of hope to the Ukrainian people. We are here. We will be there as long as Ukraine will legitimately join our common house that was founded many years ago in Rome, and here in Rome we are launching a sign of hope to Ukraine and its people to be in the same house in our European Union. Good work.
Grazie, Ministro. Let us now continue with our round, and I'm pleased to give the floor to Mr. German Galushenko, Minister of Energy of Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Sorry for missing maybe some discussions, but when we are talking about the energy and recovery, you know, we are living under constant attacks to the energy infrastructure. 4 years, almost the fourth year of constant attacks, and the challenging is really incredible from the point of view of maintaining the system. But we managed to do this. But the situation is really difficult because when we are talking about the peak hours consumption, mostly we are balancing on the import of electricity, getting the electricity from our neighboring country because of the huge destruction. Just to tell the figures that during the previous year of attack, there were damaged up to 10 gigawatt of generation facilities compared to 18 gigawatt peak consumption winter before. But what is important when we are talking about recovery, you cannot recover the country without the energy. That's an obvious fact. And when you are balancing the system on the edge, so you need additional generation for everything to recover, to rebuild, mineral deal agreement, to drill, to do everything. You need energy. And that is the situation which now pushes us, first of all, to think how the generation would look like day after. And the second, what would be the mix? Of course, we are focusing now on the faster solutions. In our goal to survive, of course, the first solution is to repair. And that is, maybe not very, let's say, popular trend when we are talking about the thermal generation using coal, but that is the fast solution to repair the stations because we need them today to balance the system. This is maneuverable generation which is needed today. And I'm very grateful to EU for the decision, the possibility, which is also, again, so we all had to be very flexible in our decision. Sometimes because it's against some policy, but that is a method to survive for us, and that is the method to survive, just to withstand another day, another winter. Allow to use the money which for the thermal generation, which is not in the goal, but I'm very grateful for that because we are still withstood all the winter and we will withstand another ones. But when we are talking about how, of course, the question whether you now go to Ukraine to invest in thermal coal generation, probably not, and that is probably the logical answer. But when we are talking that we need additional generation, so we need to have some fast solutions, and that is like a lot of projects which we already implemented with support of all of you. A lot of countries, Energy Support Fund, we just today get additional money to the fund, which is already more than 1.2 billion of euros in this fund. And we use also for additional generation, that is gas turbines, gas pistons, that is renewables. That is what we could do rather quickly. Of course, we understand that that is one of the reasons, just not only because of the mix and not only because of the additional generation, was that decentralized generation is quite difficult military target for Russians. And, I always advocate this position until day before yesterday. 740 drones per one night. If they would be able to launch so many drones, like up to 1,000, they could destroy any generation. Let's be fair with ourselves. They could destroy any generation. But what is also important that implementing these projects with the new generations, we also start thinking first how to protect. And that is a new approach in Ukraine now. So we implemented a lot of passive protections, constructions. Some of them help, some not, depending on the level of attack, depending whether it's drones or missiles. But now first we are thinking how to protect the investment which you bring to Ukraine. And that brings another question. Do we have to invest in Ukraine during the war? Or should we wait until the war over and then the next day comes? That's, I understand the big investors who, let's say, very carefully looking at this situation and say that probably we should wait or we are ready, guys, but what about the ceasefire, the energy ceasefire, or the end of the war? But the situation today in Ukraine in the energy really allowed you to realize any project, to implement any projects which first could show the resilience of the concrete site, concrete equipment, to show the quality of this equipment. We now have, for instance, gas turbine from all producers of the world, all producers, Mitsubishi, GE, Siemens, they are all in Ukraine, and they all operated in critical conditions, absolutely critical conditions, with blackouts, with the shellings, and it's also give you understanding about your equipment, about your production, so you could test. I really dare to say this because in our war, we are using all type of weapon, and we could see which is efficient, which is not, which is better. The same with the energy. I'm sorry to say this. The same with the energy. You could see now what type of equipment is better, what is more resilient, what is more efficient, how to operate the system in case of emergency. We will have to, after this conference, the beginning next week, here also we would have some energy meetings, how to restart nuclear units after emergency shutdown. And that is something which is sounds crazy because it's a normal situation. It's a normal situation. But for us, it's normal. So because just one shelling, 26th of August, we had 4 emergency shutdown of nuclear units. And that is give us experience with which probably I would never supposed to have, never ever. And I always said that I hope that no one in the world would need this experience. But the history already shows that you need this experience, even in the peace situation. In the peace situation. And I think that the presence in Ukraine today, not to wait until the end of the war, gives you another opportunity just to be more ready. I'm not talking about the war. I hope never, never, ever you need this experience during the war. But in case of some crisis situation, in case of some, I don't know, natural things which could happen, so you could test your equipment, you could test your knowledges in Ukraine today, and we are ready to share. We are ready to share, and we have hundreds, thousands of professionals who could really do incredible things to maintain the system, to do some maybe not completely technically, let's say, decision, technically approved decision, but the decision which allowed you to withstand, the decision which allowed you to maintain the system, and to provide finally electricity and heat to your households, at least to your nation, to your people. That's why you should believe in Ukraine. You should come to Ukraine. I'm grateful for the message I've heard. Sorry, maybe again I missed the beginning. That's no more Russian resources in Europe, and that's a matter of security of supply for all of us. And what Ukraine could do could really bring a big push to get rid any of the Russian resources, including nuclear fuel. So we know what to do with the partners. We know how to do this. And I'm very grateful to them for this roadmap. I think that is really, there were a lot of talks before, and we were talking. Yeah, there were some steps which everyone ready, some steps. There is a discussion inside the EU, which country is ready for that, or not ready. But thank you for this roadmap. I am absolutely sure that a genius draft, which should be added, and by the end of 27, we should get rid of any Russian resources. And it's not because Russia started the war. I think Europe already understood what is dependence. You just described the word dependence. But I think it's the matter of national security. That is a matter of national security of each European country. No matter whether its country try to be neutral or try to, let's say, to say something different from the other countries, but that's a matter of national security. And I'm sure even all countries understood that when we are talking about the energy, that is a matter of national security, and the absence of Russian resources in the European market is the first answer to the national security point. So thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Minister Galushenko. We now turn to the European perspective. It's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Dan Jurgensen, EU Commissioner for Energy and Housing.
Thank you, friends, colleagues, dear Gaman. First of all, let me say a few words about the roadmap that you mentioned. Because really the background for that is quite tragic. Europe has helped Ukraine with significant amounts. But it really is a paradox that at the same time we've been buying energy from Russia. So, with one hand, we've been giving money to help Ukraine. With the other hand, we've been buying especially gas, but also coal, also oil, also nuclear fuel from Russia. Last year, we bought energy worth 1.8 billion euros per month from Russia. But now it stops. We've sent a very clear signal to Putin. No more will we let you blackmail our member states. No more will we let you weaponize energy against us. And no more will we help fill up the war chest in Kremlin. From 1st of January, the short-term spot market contracts will be banned. This means that 1/3 of the gas that we're getting now will no longer be imported. And from the end of 27, not one single molecule will enter the EU. So, dear friends, we need to remind each other that when Russia attacks the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, it's not just cables and buildings. Who they're really attacking is the families of Ukraine. They are the victims. They are the ones that have to live without heat, without electricity. It is, of course, 100% unacceptable. And on behalf of the European Union, let me say that we will remain committed to helping rectify these damages, to help prevent, to help Ukraine get through this terrible situation. We've already provided more than 2 billion euros worth of help to Ukraine's energy sector since February 22. But we need to do more. We've established the Ukraine Energy Support Fund. This has raised 1.2 billion so far. Again, a lot of money, but we need to do more. We continue to lead the energy assistance in the G7. This assistance has been essential to tackle Ukraine's immediate energy needs. And this morning, President von der Leyen announced a new 2.3 billion package of investments to support Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction efforts. Of this, 265 million euros will be dedicated to energy security and the green transition. We need to stabilize Ukraine's energy grid. We need to rebuild renewable energy capacity, and we need to improve energy efficiency. Let me break it down. The EU is providing 150 million euros in guarantees and 30 million in grants via the EBRD to stabilize revenues for renewable energy producers in Ukraine. We are also providing support for infrastructure investments of around 70 million euros in EU guarantees and around 20 million in guarantees via the Exim Banka of Slovakia and the Slovak Agency for International Development Cooperation. The next few months will be crucial. We must use the summer to prepare for the winter. Two immediate priorities come to mind. First, we need to refill gas storage. The EU has sufficient volumes and interconnection capacity to meet Ukraine's need. But we must meet the funding gap for gas purchases. Here, we're using the Ukraine facility to leverage guarantees from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the European Investment Bank. The second priority is refueling and maintaining nuclear power plants, which cover up to 60% of Ukraine's needs during the heating season. We rely on crucial missions operated by the IAEA and financed by the EU to make sure these plants can operate safely. Beyond the immediate needs for the upcoming winter, we must also look ahead at our shared energy future. First of all, integration. Since 2022, Ukraine and Moldova's power systems have been synchronized with the EU. We want to fully integrate Ukraine and Moldova into our energy markets by 2027. This is obviously a demanding process, but it is a necessary step to EU accession, and both countries have the full support of the European Commission. Secondly, we must continue to build Ukraine's clean energy capacity. Ukraine has a massive potential: 4 gigawatts of wind, 1.2 gigawatts of solar, and up to 500 megawatts of biomass and biogas power plants. As for the EU, homegrown renewables make the energy system more independent and safer for unreliable suppliers and hostile foreign actors. Third, we must become more energy independent. The European Union is aiming to end all Russian gas imports by the end of 2027, as I mentioned before. And this will also help our Ukrainian friends by reducing the energy revenue stream of the Kremlin. Dear colleagues and friends, the dark times are not over yet, but we're working towards brighter days. Let's keep the work going, and let's keep the lights on in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We now welcome an international perspective on energy and security and resilience. It's an honor to give the floor to Mr. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Grazie a tutti, Ministro.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ministers. Thank you to ILE for organizing such an important conference that shows support of international and Italian organizations to Ukraine.
The perspective, of course, of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and I want to say a couple of things on what we are actually doing at the moment. I must pay homage to German Galushenko, my friend here, because he has shown how incredibly resilient a nuclear system, I'm not talking about other sources, can be in very unforeseen circumstances. For those who follow what is happening in Ukraine, you may know what the IAEA is doing, in particular in Zaporizhia, which is in occupied territory, and it's more dramatic in terms of what has been happening, the shelling, the constant harassment of the plant, and the consequential possibility of an accident there. But today, the idea and the whole philosophy behind this effort is how we maintain, how we reconstruct, and how we renew, how we look forward. And I want to say 2 pence on what we are doing in these areas. First of all, in terms of this idea of maintaining the fleet, it is very important for everybody to understand that nuclear energy has been the lifeline of Ukraine. Without the 9 remaining nuclear power plants that Ukraine has kept and is running so efficiently, the whole operation, and I'm not talking about only the war effort, but the day-to-day life of Ukrainians would have been absolutely impossible. The minister was talking about the reduction, quite dramatic reduction in installed capacity. And so now nuclear energy that used to be 50% of the support of your country in peacetime, and God willing it will be again, is 60 or perhaps at some moments even more. And there, I want to say that the IEA is working hand in hand with our Ukrainian counterparts, apart from the people we have permanently today, as we speak, as the only international organization working independently in occupied territory, I should say. We have our teams also in Rivne, we have our teams in Khmelnytsky, we have our teams in South Ukraine, working with the ministry, working with Energoatom, so that any problems that we have, and as you know, when you have so much pressure on the energy infrastructure, you can have very fragile situations. They are called transients in the jargon, in the energy jargon. It means that you have to deal with these fluctuations of power in a very efficient way. And this is what we are doing. Importantly, and today we had a very important moment together, dear German, with your president, where we signed yet another step that the IEA is taking in cooperation with you, because we are going to be helping Ukraine in one very ambitious project, which has to do with the construction of 2 nuclear power plants, 2 new units in Khmelnytsky, where if everything goes well, and there is an ongoing negotiation, but the IAEA's role there will be to ensure that this project, which is quite unique because it's going to be using parts which are brought from another country, an EU country in particular, is done in a safe way. We're also going to be working on the critical link between the electric substations spread across Ukraine, which are under fire. And of course, when you have subcritical stations that are interrupting their flow of power, then the operation of nuclear power plants can be affected and you can have accidents. So we are working on that together, and we are also going to be continuing our efforts in other areas. There were references here today about mining, and through nuclear techniques you may wish to know that one can ensure that through isotopic techniques that mining is done in an environmentally friendly way and in an efficient way. So as you can see, from the IAEA, we have been there alongside our Ukrainian friends from the beginning. We will continue to do so in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To conclude this institutional round, we are pleased to welcome the perspective of the United States, and I give the floor to Mr. Joshua Waltz, Deputy Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department of Energy.
Good afternoon. I realize that I am the last thing between you and oxygen, so I will try and keep my comments concise. They say that all roads lead to Rome, and for that I offer a sincere thanks to our Italian hosts. But we're not here to talk about Rome. We're here to talk about the road from Rome to Kyiv. And the difference that we see this year in the paradigm shift of the conversation in this year's conference versus those in years previous. And it's a shift towards investment. It's a shift away from patronage into partnership. And that is at the heart of what endures our relationship between the United States and Ukraine. It is investment that allows that enduring nature of that relationship to continue. And there are countless opportunities for investment in the energy space that we have heard so much about and the importance of, that has been brought to our attention at a terrible cost through Russia's unmitigated targeting of civilian infrastructure within Ukraine. You can see that this continues to be a significant focus for the United States and for the new administration and President Trump. The first trade deal that President Trump signed was a trade deal with Ukraine, not a deal to bring additional aid and additional reconstruction dollars in a one-way flow, but a partnership to develop Ukraine's resources in partnership with U.S. industry and U.S. companies to bring a sustained, resilient relationship to the dynamic in helping Ukraine to recover, increase its resilience, and move forward into the horizon that we all see as the future for Ukraine. Ukraine has become the crucible for future energy systems, and it's not just about what we can do for Ukraine, but what we can do with Ukraine. And a number of companies and a number of deals have been announced here that highlight what the United States is doing with Ukraine. The deal between DTEC and Fluence to bring battery storage at utility scale and bring resiliency to the Ukrainian grid is just one example of many where American companies are partnering with our Ukrainian partners to provide that resiliency and to take Ukraine's energy system from where it is now to an energy system of the future. And I believe deeply that that crucible of innovation that we see unfolding within the Ukrainian system is going to bear fruit, not just for our Ukrainian partners, but for all of us within the United States and all of our European partners as we seek also to increase our energy security, our energy resilience, and our energy prosperity. So with that, I want to bring warm greetings from Secretary Wright and his mission to partner with our Ukrainian counterparts, with our European counterparts, to ensure that the mission of energy abundance and energy security remains first and foremost on all of our minds. We remain committed to helping our European partners eliminate any dependence on the unstable and weaponized resources that Russia has used to coerce the foreign policies and the economic futures of our partners here on the continent. With that, I will leave you to your next. Good night.
I would like to sincerely thank you, all institutional speakers, for the valuable insight, and then we can move forward to our business roundtable. Thank you again. I would ask the business guys to join us on the stage. Okay. Please, we need to start. We have a message from the Quirinale. We have an hard stop in 15-20 minutes because of the arrival of President Mattarella. So I would ask all the guests to try to shrink a bit the message. Okay. Yeah, again, one methodological note. We have an hard stop from the Quirinale because of the arrival of President Mattarella in 15, maximum 20 minutes. So I would ask all the guests to shorten at the maximum their message. I do apologize, and do apologize for this. To begin, let us reflect on the critical importance of investment and the role of development finance institutions in enabling energy resilience. And hence, I would like to start this round with Mr. Paolo Lombardo from Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. Mr. Lombardo, public development banks and development finance institutions are providing critical support to guarantee the resilience of the Ukraine energy system. Could you please further elaborate on what they can do to support this objective, and in particular, what role Cassa Depositi e Prestiti has played so far? Thank you.
Can you hear me? Does it work?
Yep, there is the connection.
Perfect. I think what we heard earlier is that the energy... I need to speak louder? Okay. Okay. What we heard earlier is that recovery needs energy. I think life needs energy, and Ukraine is no different than any other country. Now, I think the international community responded quite firmly and rapidly to the needs of Ukraine, and has done this during some of the most difficult times. We have recently, jointly with the EBRD, provided liquidity support to Ukrenergo to an amount of 200 million. We recently disbursed 50 million that has led to the implementation of 2 hydropower plants. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Only a few hours ago, my CEO signed a letter of intent relating to an equity fund that will help bring additional capital to the country. Private sector is absolutely essential to rebuild and strengthen the energy infrastructure of the company. So the financial institutions are there working together towards this goal, and the fund that we are about to set up together with our European partners and the Commission is an example of how far and how well we can work together, and this is just the beginning. So CDP of Italy is behind the initiative, and we will be supporting Ukraine going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lombardo. Let's say, as we transition towards the business perspective, I would like to begin my reflection on how the war in Ukraine has reshaped Europe's energy equation, in particular in terms of energy supply routes and strategic infrastructure. I would like to turn to Mr. Stornajenki, CEO of SNAM. Mr. Stornajenki, can we now say that thanks to the recent investment in infrastructure and diversification of supply sources, Italy is progressively positioning itself as a strategic energy hub for continental and Eastern Europe, including Ukraine? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, for sure. You have seen what happened in the present 4 years after the invasion of Russia in Ukraine and a complete change in the standard flows of gas toward Europe. We were importing a lot of gas from Russia. The rest of Europe were importing a lot of gas from Russia. Now, flows are completely different, are coming from North Africa, are coming from LNG vessels all around Mediterranean. So I don't want to repeat what has been already said by the Minister of Energy of Ukraine and also by Mr. Volz. The topic here is not what we can do for Ukraine, it is what we can do together. There is a huge capacity of storage in Ukraine. There is an historical partnership between SNAM, the company that I do represent, and the Ukrainian TSO. We already had the possibility to cooperate. It was a mutual exchange of experience, of culture. I think that was pretty positive. So it's time to restart this cooperation. This is the spirit of the agreement that we just signed today. And we are more than happy to restart this cooperation. And we are looking for the best people to send them the best opportunities, the best discussion that we could have to develop the reconstruction of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stornajenki. Let us now stay within the industrial landscape and turn our attention to the perspective of the Ukrainian energy operation. Mr. Fedorenko, Naftogaz is the core of the Ukraine energy system. In the context of restoring Ukraine energy infrastructure and building long-term resilience, how the company is adapting its operation and priorities to respond to the current challenges? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So yes, Ukraine is fighting for life of the country and the state, and of course, the fight and the energy fight, it's one of the key pillars of this war. Naftogaz keeps secure of supply of gas to 12.5 million households. It keeps secure of supply, of course, and oil products. More than 100 fuel stations are working still near the battle line because we need it. I want to thank you on behalf of Naftogaz Group that we not on the sole path like a company, but on behalf of Naftogaz Group, I want to thank European Commission, EBRD, EIB, and the countries of EU who helps us. EBRD, during the almost 4 years of this war, is the biggest contributor in energy resilience, in urgent supplies of natural gas to underground storages, and one of the biggest partners in new projects, energy projects of Naftogaz Group. As we see that the conference, it's Ukraine recovery, but we know and we understood that we are in recovery process, not after the war, but we are recovering now. As in dark humor, we understood that during the war, we are replacing the outdated generating capacities. It's a set, but it's a real situation when we are not only maintaining, but building and developing projects under the strikes of missiles and drones, as Mr. Galushenko, Minister of Energy, told, hundreds of drones during some days. So thank you one more time to our European partners for the day-to-day support. Of course, also we are developing all our projects we can to develop. Some of companies of Naftogaz Group, like Ukernafta, started the projects in the total capacity more than 400 megawatts to replace the destroyed capacities and to create new. For example, one of the subsidiaries of Naftogaz Group, Ukrtransgaz UTG, signed today earlier the memorandum with Baker Hughes, US energy company, for the replacing and new path to replace the gas compressors and to maintain and to replace old and to construct new. So in any case, Naftogaz is also in the path of this war with the state, with the country, with the people. One of the main pillar how to keep the security and to be safe and to be with the light, to be with the heat, and to be with the water in all households. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fedorenko. Let's now shift our attention and focus to the electricity market. I'm turning to Mr. Zaichenko. Can you give us an overview about the overall development of the grid, the integration of renewables, and the stability operation? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, our partners, our donors, FIs, for continuous support. And once more emphasize about our mission. Mission of our company is to keep light on for all Ukrainians. During this brutal war, almost 80% of our grid were damaged, and we still recover our grid and trying to build new system. One of our task is to safeguard our equipment on the substation, especially critical one, auto transformers. And next step, it's building development of our system. Its main goal to deliver possibility to our traders trade electricity with European countries, deliver possibility to new renewable project to connect to the grid and without any constraints. And we have a very unique opportunity. It's to build a new system. And we, as Ukrainian transmission system operator, give all market participants full picture about new energy mix, future energy mix in Ukrainian power system. And next step for us, it's market coupling with Europe. It will be it's new challenge for us also, but we are very close to connect our market and give possibility to all market participants be equal with European countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. Unfortunately, we have the last speaking because of the protocol I was anticipating, but I want to have, let's say, with Maxim Timchenko, DTEC, last spot. In the contest, Mr. Timchenko, in the contest of restoring Ukraine energy infrastructure and building long-term resilience, how do you see the role of private companies like DTEC supporting this transformation? And how can public-private collaboration be further strengthened to accelerate this progress? Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to be short in my regards. Thank you that I have a privilege to have the final word. So what came to my mind? Probably all major private companies from Ukraine should only allowed to participate in the recovery conference if they bring the project or sign MOU or sign contract. And then in 1 year time, they should return here and report how this contract was performed. And this is basically should be the new role for all participants. I give you examples in our case. Last year, GE Vernova, we signed a MOU. Now we're building brand new substation in Ukraine. Last year, we met US company, the leading company in battery storage. Today, we announced that we're doing final commissioning of 140 million project in battery storage, building the largest energy storage facility in Eastern Europe. Last year, we make final closing for a wind park, and today we are building the largest wind park in Ukraine. This is what should be happening. We should finish talks about dramatic pictures and images in Ukraine. We are fighting, we'll keep fighting, but now it's time to talk about investments, about co-investments, about making money in Ukraine, and be more optimistic about the future of our country, because we're all building this future. That's the message for this conference from our side. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I have the role to be really, really unpolite with the guests that have no time and the ability to speak. I'm personally really sorry about this, but the protocol that we received is to stop now. So again, I do apologize for myself as moderator and for the organization. I kindly ask you to leave the room and move to the left because of the intervention del President Mattarella. Thank you again. Mi spiace, I'm really sorry about that.